Yo, what's up? It's your man Johnny Main. I'm out here tonight, rolling solo dolo out here on the Fantasy Football Show. Partner Nick Wilcox is out in Arizona, living that life, man. So just catching up with y'all tonight, man. To drop a couple gems, keep it quick in here before we get ready to kick off for Monday Night Football. Hope everybody's week 10 was it's not painful is what I'm hoping, man. Hope everything went all right for everybody. But if it didn't, definitely, hey, let us know how you're feeling tonight, man. So we will definitely get to some waiver wire ads here, some people to be thinking about. It's gonna be a little bit shortened here tonight, obviously, because I'm out here rolling by myself. We'll get to the DFS lineups that we normally do for Monday night and Sunday night. Hopefully we have a little bit of success here in that space. So yeah, man. I guess let's go ahead and get this thing cracking here, man. We got about 30 minutes before Monday Night Football kicks off between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. Should be a pretty good game, man. So I'm pretty excited about that. But yeah, it's this is what we got right now. So yeah, so it's week 11, man. It's time to panic, man. It's we're getting to that time here. I hope everybody tonight, again, like I said, hope you guys are in a good situation here. So week 11, teams that are on buys, the Colts. So you don't have to worry about getting nuked by Jonathan Taylor in week 11 because he'll be on a buy for sure. The Saints, you don't have to worry about them, or you don't have to go try to chase them because they won't be available for you. So Tyler Shuck, who was quarterback 11 in week 10, nobody had that in their bingo card for sure. So yeah, you don't have to worry about those guys. So those are two teams we got on bye this week. So we got that, and then we'll get right into it, man. Like for sure. So so quarterbacks here, we got Aaron Rodgers this week. Is somebody I'm looking at coming off of a real stinker on Sunday night football, man. Like the Steelers, they work my nerves, they stress me, it's bad. Didn't go good for them last night, but you know what you do when you have a bad game in the NFL. There's two teams that you look for: the Dallas Cowboys and the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Pittsburgh Steelers have the Cincinnati Bengals this upcoming week. So that should say enough right there for anybody for sure. So I look for Aaron Rodgers to get back on track against the Cincinnati Bengals. They obviously need a big win here in respect for the AFC North and just a playoff picture. But after the stinker that he put up last night, I'm pretty confident in Aaron Rodgers being able to bounce back in a pretty solid spot against the Cincinnati Bengals, who everybody in the NFL has done a good job against. And I mean, the Steelers did lose to them, so I will say that. So I take that with a grain of salt. But again, a really good matchup for Aaron Rodgers moving into next week if you don't have Daniel Jones or something of that nature. So moving forward, next quarterback, Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett is next up. Didn't really have a good one against the Arizona Cardinals this week. Against the Seattle Seahawks. They got out 35-7, like super mad early. And so it was a lot of garbage time stuff. I think he got pulled like in the fourth quarter. Yeah, I mean, Jacoby, for as much as I'm not like a huge fan of his, I've said it before, the Dallas Cowboys, they pretty much make everything right for anybody in the NFL. Just the Cardinals didn't really have that good of a game. But even for them not having a really good game, for sure, he finished yesterday as QB 13, which actually was his worst performance so far this season as a starter for the Arizona Cardinals. So I think there's a lot to be said about that. And then next week, he gets the Los Angeles Rams. And I think that's a really good place for him to, to be able to go back and forth with, if you will, in a game environment that the Rams are going to put up points. They're fifth in the NFL when it comes to points at this juncture of the NFL. Like I said it before, man, they low-key been like underrated and one of the more disrespected teams in the NFL when we talk about, teams that have won games and that, could make an argument to be playing in the big game. So again, I think this is a good spot for Brissett just to be able to go back and forth in an environment that's going to put up points. So if you haven't picked him up at this point, or you need somebody at quarterback, you can absolutely look at Jacoby Brissett. Kyler Murray, he's going to be on the shelf for a little bit. So I think that's a nice play you can get to for sure. Next up is Tua. Tua is not, he's another guy of mine that, like, I shouldn't say of mine, but he's another guy that I don't necessarily love per se, like overall, but obviously big win for him this week against the Buffalo Bills, at home. And they get the Commanders. And I think this is a really interesting spot for Tua. It's an interesting spot for a lot of reasons. One, Washington ranks 29th in passing yards. So I think obviously Tua can do some damage. I think Jalen Waddle is obviously coming along as long as he can stay on the field. Darren Waller should be getting ready to get back sometime soon here coming up. I think maybe it's week 13 or so. But yeah, I think this is a good environment for him as well. As far as Tua goes, if you're looking for QB options, right, streaming options, Tua is one of your guys in that space coming off that big win. So I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. As far as Tua goes, playing him next week. And then next up is JJ McCarthy. Again, another situation for didn't go good against the Baltimore Ravens this week. Like, I thought it might have been a spot where maybe we could have got a little back and forth. Didn't really shake out that way. And they were up. I mean, they were up. They had a chance to win this game for sure, and it didn't happen. And even with the lack of what JJ is giving you in the passing game over the last couple weeks, the Lions, he was QB 14. And he only had 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he did also have the rushing touchdown. So he was giving you a little bit in the rushing game for sure, which I think like we all expected that. And against the Ravens last week, 248 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and then 48 yards on the ground. That was good enough for QB 15. So again, like, it's not sexy. It's not anything that like we want to get super excited about. But he's in a game environment this week going against the Bears. And going against the Bears, low key, man, the Bears, anytime they've had, for a lot of their games, there's been shootouts. There's definitely points been put on the board for sure. And if there haven't been points put on the board, the defense has been in a situation that, they've given up a couple points here and there. So I don't hate him this week in a game environment that definitely should be some points that should be scored for sure. The Bears are 25th in the league in passing defense. So might be a nice little sneaky spot. You're talking DFS. I know that's pretty much always what's on my mind is DFS. So I don't hate JJ this week at all. Definitely don't. Next guy on my list is Michael Penix. Man, like, those guys, man, they've lost a lot of close games this year. Like, they really have. And when you like kind of strip it down and look at Michael Penix's stats, or just like, his stats, like overall, like, they're not terrible. 9 passing touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He's almost at 2,000 yards for the season, but just from a fantasy side of things, man, it just hasn't really popped for him. He had the 49ers QB 17, the Pats was QB 11, and then obviously they let one slip through their hands. They couldn't stop Jonathan Taylor in the running back of who is the best running back in football, and it looks like that's Jonathan Taylor, no doubt. But I like him this week, purely from a revenge spot as he's going against the Carolina Panthers. If you think back, the Carolina Panthers absolutely thumped the Atlanta Falcons 30-0, I believe is what it was the last time they played. So this is purely just a revenge game for me. I think the narrative there is for this Falcons team to get back on track in some respect or some capacity. So I don't hate that for him. And then the last guy on this list is Marcus Mariota. And Marcus Mariota, we all know he's obviously got big shoes to fill, trying to fill in for Jaden Daniels in the Washington Commanders team, which it seems like everything is completely going sideways with that group. I guess that would happen when you lose an MVP caliber player like Jaden Daniels, and then Terry McLaurin's barely been on the field, if at all, this season. He's got the Miami Dolphins, who, you rewind, I should say, a few months ago, and the Miami Dolphins were one of those teams that we were always chasing earlier on in the season to go against, as far as from a defensive perspective. But they've tightened up, obviously, here over the last few weeks. But Mariota gets them. I don't hate this spot for him. I think we all know he brings a little bit in the rushing game, but he hasn't hit over 40 yards in any of the games. He's hit 40 yards one time, I should say, in the rushing side of things. But overall, not very good. And like he was QB 11 last week, right? But like it was a lot of junk, man. There's a lot of garbage time, stuff for him last week. So, if I had to prioritize these guys as far as like what I would be looking for or who I would want to start, or if you're watching and you want to drop in who you would prioritize coming on the streamer here at the bottom, please let me know, man, for sure. Cause I definitely want to hear you guys' thoughts, especially tonight since I'm rolling solo and I'm just out here talking to myself. Definitely would appreciate and love the engagement for those of you that are tuned in. But I think, like I said, Aaron Rodgers, I just think this is just a really good spot for him. Coming off a bounce back situation with the Chargers, I think. And then Brissett, like again, I think just because the Rams will put up points, right, and they'll have to be some kind of fight that'll have to be there for the Cardinals. Because I mean, at this point, I think like we are quickly approaching playing for your season if we're not already there as far as mathematically being eliminated from playoff contention. So I like that. And then, like I said, JJ, I think that's a game environment that like we'll go back to and we'll look at on Sunday. And it should be rather intriguing for sure with two mobile quarterbacks. Obviously, it's a division game, so those things are always kind of quirky when you look at it. And there's been a lot of talk about a lot of things with the Vikings. We talked about it last night. They don't really have an identity, and they're searching for one. And one's got to believe at some point things are gonna and should start to click for Kevin O'Connell and those guys overall. So, what better time to get that going than in a division game? So, we're gonna rip through the running backs here. After we rip through the running backs, I'll kind of transition over to submitting the DFS lineup, and then we'll get back and hop into wide receivers and tight ends. All right, so running backs, man, this is pretty ugly. It's still an ugly situation for sure. Not a lot that really jumped off this week. There's a lot of names on this list for sure, which a lot of them are stashes and things like that right there to be looking at. But like, Tyler Algier still getting goal line work, driving Bijan Robinson fantasy owners absolutely insane as he continues to get the work inside the 10-yard line for the Atlanta Falcons. At this point, he's definitely a viable flex play. He finishes running back 8 last week. Which is kind of crazy. I've been riding him in a couple of leagues, and it's actually been kind of funny just for that to be the case, man. But yeah, like it's still happening, man. He's the goal line back for sure. I mean, only 50 yards, I think, last week. So even with that, he's still a viable flex option. And I mean, there are some 10 and 12 team leagues out there. And I'm really talking to people that are playing like in those home leagues and stuff. There's some spots where he's still available, in 10-team leagues and 12-team leagues. Why not? Like, why not? You know what I mean? Like, why not at this point if you're getting that? And then trying to think. Then we also kind of talk about the Giants situation, man. Like one of the Brian Daboll can today. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of the players in that space and who they decide to go with and who they decide to give looks to. So that's a really interesting spot with Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary. Like we'll see. Obviously, we'll see how that goes as far as like early suggestions and early thoughts. Don't really have any at this point because obviously it's a new regime that's going to be coming in there. So it'll be interesting to see what shakes out in that space. But who else we got over here? We got Amari DeMarcado. Talked about him a little bit on Sunday morning. I liked him a lot going into Sunday morning from the DFS side of things. And Trey Benson might be back. He might be back. If he is, the question is how much work does he actually get? And if he's not back, then Amari DeMarcado, you've got a starting running back on your hands here. As that running back room is beat to hell. Pretty much. So I think he's an interesting player that, you want to keep an eye on going into your waivers tomorrow and stuff like that right there. And then obviously we have Blake Corum who got, he got a little bit more run. He's continuing to get run in that space with those guys, man, as far as the Rams go. So I think he's an interesting just stash overall. And then who else we got here? We got Kenny Gainwell. Obviously, we know what that is. I heard somebody talking about Isaiah Davis, just in the respect of Breece Hall. But I'll tell you, man, like it seems like the demise of Breece Hall has been greatly exaggerated from what we can see. Like I know there was a lot of conversation about him early in the season and this and that, and even at the trade deadline. And I think all he's done is just stand tall in the middle of all of this. So, man, shout out Breece Hall and Breece Hall fantasy owners for sure at this point, just for him being able to stand tall and being able to put up a solid performance, a damn good performance. I mean, why hold back? A damn good performance. Running back 6 last week against a really tough Cleveland Browns defense. So shout out to him, man. Shout out to the fantasy owners that have been holding on to him. And shout out to the people that traded for Breece Hall. If you did that, man, because that was definitely a monster performance in a clutch time. As again, keep reiterating where we're at as far as the playoffs go and playoff situation. So we got that. Tank Bigsby might not be a bad pickup. I know sometimes you might be able to slide a couple players in to your lineup before kickoff. So you could do that for sure. And then I would say obviously too, like Rashard Smith, like he's been somebody that we've been talking about on the show as far as stashing. They got the Broncos this week, so not necessarily the sexiest play. Kyle Monungai was somebody we thought might have been able to get another start because of Swift, but that didn't happen. But he's still a viable flex play for sure. Like I don't hate it, especially talking about the game environment for next week against Minnesota. You could do that. Yeah. And I guess like for me, I guess on this list of players, if I had to pick one, or the most interesting one to me is Amari DeMarcado. He's the most interesting name to me on this list. And Tyler Algier, I think is definitely a very, 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 very close second for sure. So, all right. So we are going to get to our showdown slate, and then we'll bounce back and we'll talk a little wide receivers before kickoff and stuff. So, man, hadn't really had a chance to look at this slate too much because, man, when I tell you life has been lifing out here. So, all right. I know when the Eagles, last time I had looked, they were an underdog, and I think a lot of times on these showdown slates when teams are underdogs, that's a good place to go. And I'm trying to think about where would I go just to think about this. And my initial gut says AJ Brown tonight for a couple of reasons, because he's back from injury and working him into the equation. So I'm thinking that, and I'm also thinking obviously Jalen Hurts is kind of hard to go against that man for sure. Devontae Smith's been playing good football though too, man. He's been playing really good football so far this season. So I think that's another problem I have. So I'm looking at receivers. What I'm thinking about going receiver. These are the struggles. These are the struggles on these single entries. But I definitely feel the wide receivers because I'm pretty positive, man. Green Bay's been getting beat up pretty good by wide receivers here as of late. So, all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go Devontae Smith is where I'm gonna go, and then I'm gonna go Jalen Hurts because you got to have that. Then I'm gonna go look to see where else we can get a little bit, not different, but let's see. No Matthew Golden tonight, so that's I'm gonna go Christian Watson because I think like he's definitely gonna play a role in this game for sure. I'll go Dallas Goedert as well. So I've got like pass catchers kind of locked up, and then I'll go Elijah Wilson as well. I think that's a good pick right there because I think they've shown that like they're going to play him quite a bit. And then I can't get to Jordan Love. So I'll just run it back and I'll go with another pass catcher for uh, the Packers. So we'll go Devontae Smith at the captain spot, Jalen Hurts, Christian Watson, Dallas Goedert, Wilson, and Romeo Dobbs is what we'll go with tonight. So send one out, pour one out for your boy tonight, and hopefully something good happens. All right. Appreciate that, guys. All right. So, all right, let's get back to it. All right. Wide receivers. What a crazy week for wide receivers, man. We talked about Mac Hollins earlier in the day yesterday, and we were kind of joking about it, and it ended up being a Mac Hollins day. They are on Thursday Night Football, I believe, against the Jets this Thursday, so we don't know about Keyshawn Boutte if he's going to be playing or not. If he is, then obviously I think you kind of have to take a different approach with Mac Hollins and Demario Douglas, who Pop, you never know what you're getting with him. So that's always kind of a gamble in that space. Tez Johnson, though, man, for the Buccaneers, yo, like this. I don't want to say like he's been blowing up or anything like crazy like that, but he's definitely been a viable piece here recently for Tampa Bay as they're still waiting for, a hope and a wish and a prayer for Mike Evans. And then, still Chris Godwin, still waiting on him. Jalen McMillan, still kind of waiting on him. But like 3 out of the last 4 weeks for Tez Johnson, he's at least been a wide receiver 3. 49ers, when they played them, wide receiver 26. So he's in that wide receiver 3 range, low end wide receiver 2. The Lions, wide receiver 17 when they played them. The Saints, he didn't really do a lot. And then last week against the Pats, obviously wide receiver 10. And the one thing that like has actually been trending really good, like in his direction, is playing time. Week 7, he had a 68% playing time, 71% in week 8. And then week 10, obviously against the Pats, 83% playing time. And, for a smaller guy, as well. Like he's been very viable in the end zone. He's got 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games, 2 against the Pats. So I think like low key, man, like if he's still out there floating around, like definitely give him a shot, man. Give him a go at this point, because I think you could do a lot worse than him. We talked about Christian Watson a little bit. I think you can, if you want to pick him up, man, you can pick him up and give him a play. I think last year he was a guy that I was incredibly high on last year, and obviously the ACL injury at the end of the year kind of had to redirect things for sure when you think about him. But like he looked good against the Steelers. So I think like when you look at like limited passing options and what's available for the Packers, I think Christian Watson is definitely a really good call out for sure. Troy Franklin, quietly, I'll say quietly, I'll say respectfully. How about that? Respectfully emerging as an option week in and week out for the Denver Broncos. So I'll call that out and say that for sure. I think it's respectfully when you look at him. The chemistry is coming back with him and Bo Nix for sure. Wide receiver 1 against the Cowboys, wide receiver 9 against the Texans. And he's got 42 catches on the year for sure. And then obviously the 40 yards and the touchdown against the Broncos. He's the only person that actually showed up for the Broncos. Man, what an ugly freaking game, man. Like, I can't even tell you how bad that game actually hurt my heart, like in real life, just everywhere. So yeah, like if he's still out there floating around, man, you can give him a go for sure. Alec Pierce, man, I know the Colts are on bye, but wide receiver 14 and wide receiver 15, respectfully, over the last handful of weeks here, man. Like the guy's been balling. I can't take anything away from him in that space, man. He's obviously on the field. He's one of the best deep threats in the league at this point. I think it's time that we all start putting respect on his name. And we were talking about him when I was watching the game. Like I didn't, and call me oblivious or whatever, but like I had no idea the type of athlete he was. And still is, obviously, clearly, but just like, basketball, track and field, volleyball, football. I was like, damn, dude. I was like, okay, all right, Mr. Pierce. All right, okay, I got you. So I think like obviously if he's out there, man, like he shouldn't be. I know they're on a bye, but like you can definitely go after him for sure, man. And then the next guy we have on this list is Parker Washington. I think it's happening right in front of us. Parker Washington has emerged as a legitimate option for the Jacksonville Jaguars, and he has emerged as a legitimate option for your fantasy lineups for sure. So wide receiver 15, wide receiver 17 over the last 2 weeks. Granted, one of those was against the Raiders, but obviously against the Texans. That's what it is. But now here's the catch, though. Like he had the return, so obviously that kind of boosted him up as far as like performance wise. But he did have he caught 3 passes on 7 targets for 33 yards and a touchdown. So Jacksonville is a weird situation, and I don't even have to go into great explanation on that, right? Because if you like, obviously you're watching this or you see this, you're playing fantasy football, you watch football, the Jacksonville Jaguars are just a really weird team. They're loaded with a lot of name brand talent or a lot of familiar names. Obviously, they just traded for most notably Jacoby Myers, formerly of the Patriots and the Raiders. They just traded for him. And Parker Washington is who we're talking about tonight. So I just say be mindful of that, right? Be mindful of the box score. The touchdown obviously is there. The passing volume, the lack of passing volume, the inefficiency for the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think is something just to kind of keep an eye on. I do like Parker Washington for sure. I have him in a couple leagues. But I just say, like, just be very, very mindful of those things and how he kind of got to that space. Don't hate him. I think for me, if I had to pick like a favorite out of this group, man, it really is between like I think it's between Alec Pierce and Tess Johnson. I think because I just like Tess Johnson. It's something about him, man. When they get down towards the red zone, the Baker Mayfield is got eyes for him, and I think that says a lot to be able to have Baker's trust. I know obviously they have Kate Otten there. But I don't mind me some Tez Johnson at this point. It's kind of, again, man, it's hard to go against it, right? Like he's got, like I said, I think he's got 4 touchdowns or 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games. Most notably, the Saints game is the game that like he didn't really have the big performance. So I think Tez Johnson is a guy. I think he's a guy. I think he's a guy that I would feel good about. And Alec Pierce, like obviously there's absolutely something there with him. And then I would say coming in third place would be Parker Washington for me. I'll probably catch all kind of heat for it, but hey man, whatever. You can't get them all right. All right. Last but not least, the tight ends, man. Tight end is tight end. Tight ends are gonna tight end. Is what I would tell you. A lot of these names on here. Juwan Johnson really popped off, man, this week for sure. So shout out to him, man, and shout out to anybody that had him this week. So him and Theo Johnson, it'll be interesting to see what happens with him in that space now. Obviously, with the coaching change, talked about Colston Loveland and Kate Otten. So a lot of familiar names here in that space as far as tight ends go. Juwan Johnson is really the most notable one that really popped off. K-Dot and Theo Johnson, right? They were all in the top 7 this week as far as performance-wise. Yeah, man, like when you look at like who's next and, the schedule and whatnot, geez, man. I mean, Colston Loveland, like that's a pretty attractive situation going into next week. Like we're talking about the Minnesota game. The Saints are on a bye, so Juwan Johnson, you don't have to worry about that. I always talk about what happens with coaching changes with any team, right? So the New York Giants have a coaching change, so I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in that space as they continue to utilize Theo Johnson. I don't know who else to bring into this mix? Oh, Dawson Knox. That's another guy we got to talk about. I didn't add him to the list, but Dawson Knox is a guy we got to talk about because of Dalton Kincaid hamstring injury. So that's a guy that like maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. But I think like obviously in a get right spot not a get right spot, but a bounce back spot for the Buffalo Bills next week. I think he's somebody that you also have to consider. So Dawson Knox is somebody else I would tell you to kind of keep in mind in that space. So So yeah, man, that's about time, man. Like I said, man, it's me out here tonight, just rolling solo. Just wanted to hop on, kind of give you my waiver wire takes at this point. Rolling solo, kickoffs getting ready to happen in the next 5 minutes or 5 seconds. So I won't keep everybody in that space, but thank you guys tonight for tuning in. Those of you that did. Obviously, you can catch us on Sunday morning at 10:30 a.m. as we got your picks, we got your props, we got your DFS plays, and much, much more. Then you can catch us again Sunday night for our recap show as well. So with that being said, man, y'all know the drill. Y'all know the deal. It's me, it's your man, Johnny Main, reporting live from the Fantasy Football Show, and I'm out. Peace.